how many cards and audio you have collected so far from the Baltic display, the future one?
So I think so far we've had about 900.
900?
Yeah.
Wow, it's really large amount.
So we don't know how many audio recordings there are yet because I've not listened to them yet, but we've got through 900 cards. So we've got 400 more.
You said you haven't listened to them
No.
at all.
Well, I've listened to them on the device, but I don't know how many audio clips there are. I've not been able to listen to them all yet, but
Yeah.
I've listened to some of them and there's some really cool ideas in there.
Yeah. Any impressive audience you remember now?
Just loads. I was particularly struck by how many people were talking about the environment. So a lot of people were talking about bees and protecting the plants, growing more plants, renewable energy, hybrid and electric cars. And this is something that I was quite surprised about because I didn't think that kind of such serious topics would be talked about.
So how many of them you think, you guess, will become true?
Ooh, hopefully all of them. I mean, there are some weird ones there, so maybe not those. But I'm actually quite surprised by how many of them are quite realistic.
When you are there and watching people use it, is there any funny moment?
I think it's still a weird thing, really, to ask someone to draw something and then talk about it. It's still kind of quite an alien concept to a lot of people that they scan this thing on a device and record to it. I mean, it is quite funny to see people like talking into a weird box, not quite sure why, and then putting their drawing on a wall.
And that's just something like the alien doing talking to the box. Yeah, so if you are there and what you will draw down what you will record to the device.
You see, that's a good question because I never really know, and whenever we pose these questions, I always think like, what would I do? And I can never think of anything, and so I really struggle. But then other people do a much better job than I ever would. So I don't know. It'd probably be something really boring like mixed use areas, so people can live and work in the same place, for example, or near to each other. But I don't think anyone would be interested in my points of view, so I'll let other people do it.
Before it was first used, how long you spent in creating it?
So it was all a bit rushed when we first used it. It took about 2 weeks to make the first
Really?
version.
And how's your feelings about when you say the first time it's used by other people?
It was quite cool actually because I wasn't really expecting much to come back, and I think this I did it really quickly, not really thinking that it would be useful. But then you listen to them, and there'd be all these great ideas about town planning behind them, and so I think we've been underselling kids a lot in terms of their not thinking they had an opinion about where they lived, but I think if you actually talk to them about where they live, they've got a lot of insights that we've kind of not been able to capture so far.
Where your ideas comes from?
So I'm a town planner by background. So I've done a degree in town planning, and I've worked in a town planning office in a local authority. And one of the difficulties that we continually had was getting people involved in shaping where they lived. So getting people's opinions and then taking that into account when developing planning policy. So throughout my PhD, I've been looking at creating new tools that will get people to express their opinions about the place.
So I mean, the officials, for example, or the government will really pay attention to this data and decide what to do or what not to do.
Because the process of town planning is very it's got a very kind of rigid way that it works, and there are certain considerations that have to be given when collecting citizen feedback. And so we're looking at how you can take this more kind of creative and dynamic way of collecting data and how you might kind of implant it onto this kind of strict legal system, and how these voices might be heard within that sphere.
Okay, so we can look forward to the change it will have, right?
We'll see, yeah.